Main Street will be buzzing with activity this weekend. We have details about a new fall festival, and help is available for local business owners through the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce. Plus, we get an update from Finance Director Mark Milne. These stories and more on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, October 23rd, 2013. I'm Sarah. The Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce wants to help local businesses grow. The Chamber's entrepreneur and residence Peter Carlson updated the Barnstable Economic Development Commission about a program that is bringing together business owners in need of help and professionals who donate services.
Resources in our eyes are things like legal help, accounting. So we recruit professionals, essentially service providers. We recruit these guys to basically donate their time in a pro bono manner. So we have a pool of hours in a pro bono pool that we give out to entrepreneurs. And so we do this in a way that allows us to, we give them assignments. So an option, a good example would be something like an entrepreneur needs a licensing agreement drawn up for a new partnership they're doing. Or a potential partnership, and they can't afford that legal service. But they, if they get this agreement, they can do, they can, get to the next step. So we'll put the call out to our resource pool and say, who's got hours available. We'll give them an assignment and say, entrepreneur A needs this agreement done. Can you do that in this time? If they can, they'll perform the service and they'll report back. So there's a feedback loop that says, as soon as we give them an assignment, they have to come back to us and say, I did it, the entrepreneur took it, and then did the next step. And as long as they keep doing their homework and doing their assignments, they keep getting more.
For more information about the Entrepreneur Resource System, you can contact the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce. Main Street Hyannis will be filled with shoppers and residents Saturday. That's because Saturday is both the first Halloween on the Green and Shop Local Day. There will be activities for kids and great deals for shoppers. Ellen Brady with the Hyannis Area Chamber of Commerce says Halloween on the Green is an all-day event with activities for everyone.
And then it takes place on the Village Green. We have a craft fair with East Coast crafters coming in from 9 to 7. We have British Beer Company having events in their place all day and outside of their place. So they're going to be doing face painting, balloon animals, pie eating contest, psychic readings. They're doing a pumpkin beer fest at 5. And then they're having a costume party after our masquerade party. So theirs starts at 10.
Halloween on the Green is taking place this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Main Street, Hyannis. For a full list of retailers participating in Shop Local Day, you can visit hyannismainstreet.com. The state certified the town of Barnstable's free cash from the fiscal 2013 budget. Barnstable This Morning host Sarah Colvin chatted with Finance Director Mark Milne to find out just what free cash really means.
I want to talk, Mark, a little bit about free cash. This sounds like a great thing, but it's really not, free cash. Well, what does it mean when we talk about free cash?
Sure, yeah, especially for those, we've talked about this before, but for those who haven't heard this term before, free cash, what it essentially means is it's cash that's in the town's treasury at the end of the year that's free and clear of any and all encumbrances against it. So it's cash from which the town can appropriate from to fund any operating or capital program expenditure.
So kind of leftover money that wasn't used the year before for anything, and this isn't tagged or earmarked for anything, so it can be appropriated in
Right.
any way in which the town decides.
That's right. Yeah, think of it like it's our surplus. It's a surplus that we've generated, and we have to, by law, every year submit a set of financial statements to the Division of Local Services from which they calculate the number from.
Exactly. So what does our free cash look like this time around?
Well, on July 1, 2013, the first day of this fiscal year, it was certified at $11.1 million, and that's down from $17.3 million the previous year. And the reason why it's gone down over $6 million is, if you recall, we did a transfer of $7 million from this fund to the town's capital trust fund during last fiscal year in order to augment our capital improvement program. So that was the main contributing factor to the decrease in the general fund's free cash.
Exactly. So that obviously that $7 million is the difference pretty much this year. What is that? I mean, obviously it sounds like $11 million. That's quite a good bit of money. How will that be used? Is that kind of broken down into categories from each different segment of the budget?
Well, first of all, we have the town council policy, which is to restrict an amount of that free cash that's equal to 4% of our general fund operating budget, and that's a little bit more than $5 million. So almost half of that surplus is restricted for extraordinary and unforeseen events, and so we put that aside. And then the balance that's left over, we can use to fund our fiscal year 15 budget development, whether it be on the operating side or the capital improvement program side, or we may want to just keep it in surplus in order to provide us a larger cushion for those extraordinary and unforeseen events. The 4% policy reserve that we currently have is under review by the finance operations. We're looking at seeing whether or not we should be a little bit more aggressive and perhaps increase that amount based on more modern governmental financial practices, and so that's under review. But it is, like you said, a healthy reserve for our general fund. It's not as strong as some of the other entities, such as bond rating agencies and the Governmental Finance Officers Association recommends, but it is still pretty strong.
In talking about those recommendations, is there a solid number, or is it more of a percentage that they judge their recommendations on?
Yeah, it's more of a percentage, and it ranges anywhere from 8% to 15%, depending upon your specific circumstances. Communities that have a very volatile revenue stream would want to keep a larger percentage in reserves, closer to perhaps the 15%, and those would be communities that rely heavily upon sales and income taxes, for example, because they can fluctuate significantly during changes in the economic cycle, where communities like us, who depend predominantly on property taxes, is a much more stable revenue source, so you don't have significant fluctuations in your main revenue stream, so you don't have to have as large a reserve.
Indeed. Now, of course, as we look at the beginnings of the budget process for fiscal 15, how are these numbers, this free cash, taken into consideration at all when planning the budgets for the coming fiscal year?
Yes, it is, and it's more so on our capital improvement program side. We try not to depend upon these reserves to fund recurring operating costs. You don't want to get yourself in that situation, because then you create what's commonly referred to as structural budget imbalance, and so you don't want to do that, because if you can't regenerate the reserves that you use in any particular year, then you're just going to start depleting your reserves, and you become dependent upon them to pay recurring operating costs. It's not a good situation you want to be in. That's like you or I depending upon our savings account to buy us groceries every week, as opposed to our weekly paycheck.
Indeed, very important, again, as you mentioned, to have those reserves. So again, getting back to the free cash, obviously there's an approval process that has to go through. You kind of calculate these numbers, and then they go through an approval process. And was that recently? These numbers were recently certified? Yes,
we provided the financial statements generated in-house here to the Division of Local Services, which is a operation under the Department of Revenue at the state level, and they review all the financial statements. They ask a bunch of questions. They actually had a field representative down here for an entire day reviewing all of the financial information that we provided, and that's what they use to calculate these numbers.
The town of Barnstable has over 40 boards, committees, and commissions with nearly 300 seats. You have a chance to join these active citizens. The town is looking for residents to fill open seats on several committees, including the Golf Committee, Land Acquisition and Preservation Committee, Zoning Board of Appeals, and Water Pollution Control Committee. If you believe you have something to offer one of these boards, you are invited to submit an application. The appointments committee, made up of 5 town councilors, will then interview applicants and make recommendations. You can stop by the town council office at Town Hall or visit our website for more information. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.